time for Main Street Media Television's exclusive coverage of SEC Media Days, driven by Complete Service Heat and Air, your trusted provider of top-notch heating and cooling solutions, dedicated to ensuring optimal comfort and efficiency for residential and commercial spaces. Complete Service Heat and Air is located in White Bluff, Tennessee. We do service and repair on heating and air in the right way. 24/7 service. Call us at 615-797-3997. Serving Cheatham, Davidson, Dixon, Hickman, Humphreys, Montgomery, and Williamson counties. Now, let's go to downtown Nashville and join Maurice Patton, Chris Yao, and Wade Neely as they broadcast from the Grand Hyatt.
Welcome back into Main Street Sports, today's live coverage from SEC Football Media Days kickoff event at the Grand Hyatt in downtown Nashville. Mo Patton, Wade Neely, I'm Chris Yao, and we are talking a little Tennessee football.
Well, first of all, you never talk a little.
That's right.
Tennessee football.
Not in Middle Tennessee. There's no question there.
So.
And I'm looking forward to this segment because we do have a fantastic guest, and we're going to tell you about him in just a moment. But first, we have to tell you that this segment is brought to you by Dairy Berry Heat and Air, proudly serving Middle Tennessee for over 35 years. For outstanding service, you call Dairy Berries at 615-452-8121 for all your heating and air needs. Dairy Berries Heat and Air, making customers for life.
They rejected
our jingle.
Yeah, that's unfair.
It really, not only is it unfair, but
can we throw it in anywhere?
Dairy Berry Heat and Air, comfort for your dairy air.
I'm on board with that.
Ramon, don't you like that better?
I actually like it better because you know why? You're going to remember it. You're going to remember that one. I promise you. That one's going to stick, no pun intended.
Oh. Ramon Foster, former UT offensive lineman, 11-year NFL veteran with the Pittsburgh Steelers, joining us here on Main Street Sports Today as we continue with our coverage of SEC Football Media Days. Ramon, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, 100%.
Well, you were saying that you never got here as a player.
Yeah.
So this has been fun, I guess, huh?
It has been fun, especially on this side where I don't have to worry about going to practice the next week. You know, that's the other side of it.
And backing up what you just said.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? Not being a guy to say something stupid up there, because the young version of any man, anyway, any male, right, will say some silly stuff on the stage, given a mic and cameras. But this has been a cool experience for me, being in the sports media world now, too, and also right here in Nashville. Like, we can go home at the end of the day here, So it's been fascinating. Nashville always puts on the show. But I think all of us can recognize, too, that the SEC, they know how to do it right. Who stretches a media day conference over 4 days?
And it's only going to get bigger because we got 2 more teams coming.
That's right. I forget about that, too. I didn't forget about that. I want to forget them. But, hey, Texas and OU coming into the fold. It's going to be a very competitive league, and I think it's better for all teams for it to be that way.
Ramon, part of the Ramon, Kayla, and Will show that airs from 6 to 10 a.m. on 104.5, The Zone. And as we were saying off air, I did that 6 o'clock thing for one football season, literally one high school football season. I don't envy you at all.
You know what? As busy as my lifestyle is, I've retired and actually got more busy. Because my kids are at that age where we're doing travel baseball, we're doing football, we're doing every sport, school, and stuff like that. But I get in early, I get to work, if we call it work, from 6 to 10, and then I get an opportunity to spend time with the wife and the kids in the afternoon. So it's worked out better for me. And also playing football, I was an early riser type guy anyway. I'd be working out by like 5:30, during the season and whatnot. So it's been a cool adjustment. That first 2 weeks, it did knock me over a little bit. I will admit that.
Yeah, it's kind of a lifestyle change if you're not careful. But, as you look at the situation at your alma mater and everything that they were able to get done in year 2 of Josh Heupel, obviously you got to change at the quarterback. But what are your expectations out of that team this time around?
I'm hoping for a little bit of the same. finding some consistency from year to year with the university, whether it be player development, offensive production, or just continually stay a top 12, top 5, top 10 type of team. I think that's the expectation moving forward. And Coach Josh Heupel has kind of shown that he's capable of. Some of the stuff that he's knocking out a little bit is having the ability to recruit. Being in the position to where when he took the job, a lot of people didn't know much about Josh Heupel. Heck, a lot of us didn't even know he was a runner-up in the Heisman. So to have that be a part of his repertoire, to have him being able to get a 5-star recruit as it stands yesterday and the year before that too with Nico Iamaleava, that shows that we're moving in the right direction. So I look forward to seeing him continue to develop players this year. And compete in the East. I think a lot of people are picking Tennessee to be the SEC East, second in the SEC East. If we can get close to Georgia, because right now we go from playing Alabama every year to now Georgia being a trench monster, I think that's the expectation. It's fair to say floor 9 games plus that, I think that's all right and can keep Tennessee in the national forefront until you can recruit at a higher, wider range the way Alabama, Ohio State, and Georgia have been able to do for years.
You talk about the recruiting piece earlier this week. Receiver Mike Matthews from the Atlanta area.
Yeah.
5-star guy commits to Tennessee. You talk about can Josh Heupel recruit at a high level. With Georgia doing what they're doing, getting that guy out of Atlanta would seem to be a bit of an answer to that question.
It would, and Georgia wanted him. Clemson was right down the street from him also. I mean, we got to remember Clemson's right in the Atlanta area. They recruit the same type of players at the same schools, and for Tennessee to kind of mosey themselves in, I'm hoping it's not a one-off, because it's one thing. I tell my kids, you show me something fascinating, all right, that's real cool, and I like that thing, but let's do it again. And I think if Josh Heupel is anything like I think he is with the competition, the competitive side of his DNA, I'm hoping that's what him and his staff are thinking too.
And when Tennessee has been at its best, they've recruited Georgia and the Atlanta area.
Yeah, they have. And I think a lot of people have kind of said this too. Now, I guess we're seeing the tug of war between these two schools. It's the Georgia, Atlanta area, and it's the Carolinas. I had somebody bring that up to me recently. It's like, if you look at the history of Tennessee and the years that they've been good, on the other end of that, Clemson has not been good. It's like because Clemson they create a wall around the Carolinas and that Georgia area they tap into. So it's a universe where Tennessee and Clemson can't coexist at being top 5 or programs. So us being able to get Mike Matthews away from them, because I think it may have been between us and Clemson for the most part, says a lot about where they are.
Ramon, we've got you here, and you've already used the term trench monster. There's going to be a ton of talk about the quarterback position throughout the day, but I'm curious. Talk to us about the offensive line. Tell us about the defensive line. Where do the Vols rank in the SEC pecking order with those two units?
Still figuring themselves out offensively and defensively. That's kind of just where I'm at. You look at where Georgia is, Alabama. Heck, I'd even throw the class that A&M had a couple years back too. Like, you have to develop those bigs. You have to also have your bigs have a DNA of what the expectation of play is. And we're still figuring that out as a school. But I'll say this, they've gotten 4-star guys up front. They've got high caliber guys, and Coach Glenn Ellaby offensively got a top 10 pick last year under his coaching regime. So, and Darnell Wright. But where are we right now? Got to replace a couple guys. Jerome Carvin, Darnell Wright's in that competition. I mean, in that conversation also as guys going to the NFL. You have leadership skills up front with Mays, and Spraggins also been another guy that can lead this group. As long as you have 1 or 2 dudes that can drag everybody else with them on the offensive line to kind of set a standard that they play by, I think you're good. Defensively, Amari Hand has been a guy. Amari Thomas has been a guy that's for Tennessee has been a player on the field. From my understanding is he's been pushed to be more of a vocal leader. He's been pushed more to kind of drag those younger guys with him, because you're all about the legacy you leave behind too. So being in the position to where they've recruited the last 2 cycles of getting high outside edge rushers, I'm hoping that we see those guys get after quarterback. The one way to beat teams is put the quarterback on his back. And if we can stop the run, we'll be in a real good spot. But, of course, the SEC is all about controlling the line of scrimmage. We have to do our part, especially as fast as the offense play. Having the depth to be able to rotate guys defensively if they're out there longer than expected.
Piggybacking off that, a couple of transfers come in expected to start right away with Carrick and Campbell.
Yep.
You expect those guys to make a big impact, but additionally, speaking of how fast Tennessee plays, how much of an impact does that have on offensive lines? Does that help the offensive line, how quickly they play and how quickly that Joe Milton and Hendon Hooker and those
Depends
guys
on what kind of shape
have?
they're in.
Yeah.
Well, how they've been, they read quickly.
Yeah, they do. From an offensive line perspective, I loved it. When we went no huddle in my professional time in Pittsburgh, I loved it. Especially, this is the other thing, if you're get that first pass out the way in this completion or that first down. After that, we as offensive linemen can pace ourselves better than defensive linemen. If a defensive lineman doesn't run to the ball, that's a big play. If a linebacker doesn't run to the ball, that's a big play. For us, we get a 20-yard play, we get a 20-yard catch, we jog down the field. You're able to preserve yourself. So conditioning does matter, but there is a fine line of balancing how you condition yourself from one play to the next. We can sustain longer, and this is the best part about playing fast, up-tempo ball. If we get a first down and don't change personnel, those defenders have to stay on the field. So if they have to stay on the field or they're exchanging guys out, then we get the 12-man on the field penalty. Like, there's bonuses to being able to do that. But I know the strength and conditioning crew at Tennessee is good about having their guys ready. So it's actually more advantageous for the offensive line.
I just think that, with this, the offensive line particularly was a big strength last year. They kept Hendon Hooker upright all year long, and if they can do that with Joe Milton, you feel like he's gonna make defenses pay.
I kind of say this about that: if we go an entire year and Joe Milton's the starting quarterback with the Tennessee Vols, that's a good season. That means he's been protected. He's refined his passing. Yeah, good decisions, and the offense is moving because y'all know, like I know, anytime there's a 5-star guy on campus, on any campus, everybody and their mama and fans is looking for him to get on the field. So if Joe starts the entire year, even better for us.
No question.
That's a heck of a situation that UT finds themselves in at the quarterback
It
position.
is.
And as Wade said,
Been a while.
going to be a lot of talk about that. But you've got Nico,
Yeah.
and whether it's reality or whether it's just perception, he's pushing
Yeah.
Joe. And what we've seen of Joe lately
Yeah.
has been better than what we saw of Joe earlier.
Yes.
What are your expectations for Joe going into this season?
Be a leader. And I think for anybody that's played at the next level, whether it be college, pros, or whatever, you have to learn this. Minimize your weaknesses. His weaknesses have been what? Throwing the soft pass over the middle, taking a little bit off his touch when it comes to him delivering those short 5 to 7 yard passes. If he minimizes his weaknesses, his strengths are going to take him a skyrocket. I'm talking about a NASA rocket to the first round. Okay, like that's what it takes for a guy like him. So that's my expectation. The leadership, quarterback, you're handed the keys to the car. You're the CEO of the campus, essentially. That's expected. You're supposed to lead. You're supposed to be a good teammate. Minimize your weaknesses because that's going to be your strengths to the team. The deep balls, we talk about that all day, but if we can't hit that 7-yard end for a first down, what are we talking about?
Got to be able to do it. No question. Of course, you got guys like Brew McCoy who can go over the middle and catch those balls, which makes a big difference. And you've got Squirrel on the outside who can take the top off. This offense seems to be loaded, and this team seems to be loaded. As long as the defense can hold up on the secondary, Tennessee ought to have a pretty good year.
It does. And you said all of that. You know what you said? Nothing about the play calling because it's all about the Jimmies and Joes.
No X's and O's, Jimmies and Joes all day long.
Yes, indeed.
Ramon Foster joining us here on Main Street Sports today with our coverage from SEC Football Media Days kickoff event at the Grand Hyatt in Nashville. Ramon, thanks for taking time with us, man. We really appreciate you. Looking forward to a good year of Tennessee football.
Absolutely. I appreciate you guys.
Go get you a nap.
Hey, go Vols.
Thank you, Ramon.
We'll be right back with more right after this on Main Street Sports Today.
Thank you, brother.
Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint treats your orthopedic injuries and existing conditions. Our trained physicians will get you back in the game faster. Contact us at 931-381-2663 or www.mtbj.net. Custom Stone Handlers supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
You can't see the sights without the sounds. From the crack of the bat to the roar of the crowd and everything in between, discover what Hit City has to offer. Spend your nights cheering on the Nashville Sounds at First Horizon Park with giveaways, fireworks shows, theme weekends, and more. Single game tickets are on sale now. Visit NashvilleSounds.com to claim your seat today.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Complete Service Heat and Air is a trusted provider of top-notch heating and cooling solutions dedicated to ensuring optimal comfort and efficiency for residential and commercial spaces. Complete Service Heat and Air is located in White Bluff, Tennessee. We do service and repair on heating and air the right way 24/7 service. Call us at 615-797-3997. Serving Cheatham, Davidson, Dixon, Hickman, Humphreys, Montgomery, and Williamson counties.
Mid-Tennessee Bone & Joint has been the official sports medicine provider for Murray County Schools for more than 40 years. We specialize in orthopedic service, and our Ortho Quick Walk-In Clinic lets you bypass the ER. Visit us online at www.mtbj.net.
It's time for Main Street Media Television's exclusive coverage of SEC Media Days, driven by Complete Service Heat and Air, your trusted provider of top-notch heating and cooling solutions, dedicated to ensuring optimal comfort and efficiency for residential and commercial spaces. Complete Service Heat and Air is located in White Bluff, Tennessee. We do service and repair on heating and air in the right way. 24/7 service, call us at 615-797-3997. Serving Cheatham, Davidson, Dixon, Hickman, Humphreys, Montgomery, and Williamson counties. Now, let's go to downtown Nashville and join Maurice Patton, Chris Yao, and Wade Neely as they broadcast from the Grand Hyatt.
We're joined by 107.5 The Game's Heath Klein, who's got a show coming up here in just a moment to talk a little bit about the South Carolina Gamecocks. Heath, thanks for joining us.
Sure, glad to be here.
We have already touched on the fact that we've got a couple of Gamecock faithful at the table.
Yeah.
One from USC East, the other from Jacksonville State. So instantly, the November 4th battle for the nickname kind of came up, I guess.
Let's go.
The showdown.
That's right, baby.
Yeah, exactly.
The rivalry we didn't know existed.
The rivalry we didn't know we needed
until
That's
now.
it. Yeah. So
Spurs out, Spurs up,
stay cocky and all that.
Fear the beak.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun.
The weird thing about the Spurs up deal is that was Muschamp's thing, and Muschamp, of course, is long gone, and somehow that's hung around. That might be his biggest contribution to South Carolina football is that Twitter hashtag.
I mean, it's a solid hashtag. Let's be honest. I mean, if you're looking for a Roll Tide or a War Eagle, that's It's as good as any, right?
I mean, it's on all the banners here and everything, and here at Media Days. So
Enduring
I guess
legacy.
they like it. Yeah, and if you're Muschamp, that's better than some of what your options are.
Otherwise, you're kind of recovering from the Muschamp era in Columbia, huh?
Yeah, and look, Shane Beamer's done an amazing job of cleaning up that mess. I don't know from outside if people completely realize, because look, 2020 obviously was a weird season for everybody. It was screwed up. I don't know if people realize how big of a pile of junk he took over.
How
getting them to a bowl game that first year was a huge
old was that
accomplishment.
quarterback that they played that year?
Zeb Nolan. I mean, he had played the year before for North Dakota State, so it wasn't like he was somebody from a movie script coming back at like age 30 or something. But yeah, the fact that you had to play a guy that you didn't plan to play,
Who was a GA?
Yeah, he was a GA.
yeah, he wasn't planning to play. He was starting his career, so
That's
yeah,
phenomenal.
the fact that they cobbled together 6 and then got a big bowl win against UNC that really kind of was the capper on the season. It was a heck of a job that first year for Beamer, getting them out of that mess, because Muschamp, man, when it went sideways, it went and stayed sideways.
No doubt. Well, speaking of UNC, you guys kick off the year with them, and as we were talking a moment ago, seems to be that's going to be where your season hinges, or at least where the momentum hinges.
Yeah, look, there's really no scenario when you've got Georgia on your schedule, Clemson on your schedule. You got to go to Texas A&M, who, you beat them last year, but we know A&M's still pretty talented, and historically they have owned the Gamecocks. If you can't beat UNC, it becomes really hard as a fan to then say, okay, but we'll make up for it by winning one of those kind of games. So it's not to say your season's ruined if you start 0-1, but if you have hopes for something better than just sort of, hey, try and grind out your 6 or 7, get to a bowl, keep it moving for another year, you really have to win the UNC game. And it's the first time Beamer has had an opening like this. Last year was Georgia State. The year before was Eastern Illinois. So you in those kind of games have a little bit of wiggle room to say, if you're not sharp, you can get away with it. Against UNC, you're going to have to be your best and your best early if you want to get a win there. And so a pretty important game.
In South Carolina's favor, though, is that the quarterback situation has improved, dare I say, dramatically since Beamer's first year, as you return Spencer Rattler there.
Yeah, Rattler in the second year with the program, and so he's got a guy in Juice Wells he's got chemistry with from last year, really good receiver. They're breaking in a lot of other new guys in the pass game behind him, but having that one lead dog you feel good about. Trey Knox transferred from Arkansas. That's a guy that they feel really optimistic about too. So you've got a quarterback in a new system because you have a new coordinator this year, but I think the experience he picked up in the conference and everything else should help them a lot. And behind him, if something goes wrong, they're not going to have to bring out any grad assistant coaches this time around. So that's a much better spot than they were 2 years ago.
Talk a little bit more about Trey Knox, because he's a local kid, played his high school football at Blackman High School down in Murfreesboro, transferring in from Arkansas, like you said, signed out of high school as a receiver, kind of grew out of that position at 6'5", 245.
Yeah, Loggins obviously comes over as tight ends coach from Arkansas, so there's that history there. And based on what we saw him in the spring game and what you'd seen of him on the field already, he should be a really important factor for them in the offense. One of the things last year that was kind of interesting was that they had a kid in Jaheim Bell who's at FSU now. Going into the year, there was so much buildup on the idea that Bell was going to be this really important player. A guy could be used in a lot of different ways, but just an elite athlete. And by the end of the year, he was a tailback. More often than not, they were just saying, well, you're big. Maybe you could sort of run into people and get 4 yards. It was really weird how it unfolded. And so this year, you've got a tight end that, again, the expectation is could have a really big year, and I'd be surprised given the history that those guys have if he doesn't. If he stays healthy, I would think he statistically will be in the running for whatever all-conference teams there are, Mackey Award, a lot of possibilities if he has the year that they think he can have.
Heath, I want to ask you about the defense in a second. Before we do, I want to remind our viewers that our coverage of the South Carolina Gamecocks at SEC Media Day is brought to you by the JR Group at Crye-Leike Realtors in Clarksville. The JR Group understands that buying or selling a home can be a stressful experience, and that's why we are dedicated to providing exceptional customer service and personalized attention every step of the way. So if you're ready to take the next step in your real estate journey, we encourage you to contact them and learn more about how the JR Group can help. Call 931-980-9006. Having said all that, and we kind of talked about the offense, especially obviously the quarterback play of Spencer Rattler, kind of turning the tables, though. What are some strengths and maybe what are some glaring weaknesses for the Gamecocks on the defensive side of the ball this year?
Well, the biggest thing defensively is just do they have enough bodies up front that can do the job? They feel okay about the secondary, but Tonka Hemingway was here today. He's a really nice player, but do they have enough of him? A guy that people may not remember the name on, but Jordan Strawn is somebody who got hurt against Arkansas last year, second game, blew out his knee, but has been a productive player in the past as an edge guy. Will he be 100%? Will he look like the guy that he was before that injury? That would be huge for them if he was able to contribute. But they lost several big bodies on the front. So that front six, what do they look like? I think is going to be one of the big stories. And it's, again, where depth, if you talk about what separates South Carolina from some of the best programs in this conference, their starters may not be Georgia level, but they've got starters at most spots right now that can play at a high level. What they don't have yet is if you start getting those injuries, you get into the depth chart at linebacker, for example, suddenly you're having to go a lot more inexperienced than you'd ever want to. So that's where they're still working on building things up over the next couple of years. They got to stay healthy if they want to have the big season.
I can see that. And this may sound like somewhat like a condescending question because with all these stars here at SEC Media Day, we don't really give a lot of attention to special teams. But I'm sitting here reading Phil Steele's college football preview, and he says that South Carolina, not just number one in the SEC, they're number one in the nation in terms of their special teams unit. Is that a unit that's capable of a team that's trying to kind of find its footing, maybe of flipping a game that could have been a loss into a win?
Yeah, I mean, look, they did it last year. I mean, the reality is you have a kicker that didn't miss a single field goal last year, and you've got a punter that threw three touchdowns and repeatedly pinned people deep for field position. I mean, you look at that Clemson game, and you go back, some of the issues they had with the Gamecock special teams in that game is part of why they were able to pull off a win on the road against them. And multiple times he pinned them 95 yards away. And so even if you give up some plays, you can afford that if you're starting teams inside their 10. Kai Kroger has been a giant weapon for them. And again, look, the fact that quarterback threw 18 touchdowns last year, the punter threw 3, that tells you it's a pretty unique set of circumstances when you've got numbers like that. Yeah. Maybe run the fake punt more. It's like Madden. Just keep running the fake punt offense all game.
And
run until they stop it, baby.
Right. And to me, it seems like special teams is an area that does get lost on these programs that are trying to find that footing, trying to build depth, especially on the defense, like you mentioned. And having been there as a Michigan fan, sometimes special teams is what can win you some ball games, and that's what you cling to. So that's a unit that I will keep my eyes on. Offensively, outside of Rattler, who are some guys that are going to make major, in the tight end position, some major contributions.
Well, Juice Wells is back, and he's, I would assume, going to be all conference. So, you never know with the voting and who actually votes and who doesn't. But if people are paying attention, I would think he would be on the all conference first team. He's a really good player, came from James Madison, and last year took a little time, I think, to both adjust to the SEC and also to the fact the offense was not exactly good for the first 3 quarters of the year. But once they got clicking, he and Rattler have some real chemistry. They should build off of for second year. Wells should be a big star for the Gamecocks this year. Biggest question is tailback. Honestly, we don't know what they've got at tailback. You got a combo of some lower level transfers from places like Newberry. You got a guy in DK Joyner who has bounced around and most recently was a wide receiver and Wildcat quarterback. Good athlete, but does he know how to do every nuance of the position? That's certainly something that's not clear. They got a kid in Braswell who's a 4-star tailback coming in, but again, freshman tailback, how quickly can you trust him to do every part of the job? So it's probably going to be running back by committee, and that's okay as long as you get the production out of the committee, but we got to see that. That's going to be a big question mark.
Heath Klein with 107.5 The Game out of Columbia, South Carolina, joining us here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint as we continue our coverage of SEC Football Media Days. Heath, we were talking off air, obviously, and there's a certain game. Talk about this Jacksonville State, because you were saying there's a little juice behind Jacksonville State coming into Williams-Brice.
I'm interested in this. I have not heard this story, so I'm interested.
Yeah, if you go back, Rich Rodriguez, when he was at Arizona back in 2015, when the Gamecocks are looking to hire a head coach, they tried to get Tom Herman. That didn't work out. Then the next plan was Kirby Smart, and Kirby was going to come, except for then Georgia, knowing Kirby was going to come, said, nah, we're not having that. They fire Richt. They get Kirby Smart instead. And so suddenly now it's kind of a chaos situation of, okay, where do you go from there? And so they interviewed a bunch of people. One of the guys who asked for got an interview was Rich Rodriguez. But in the end, they weren't going with Rich Rodriguez. They were going with Will Muschamp. And so the Saturday night, while I was actually at the ACC championship game that night, and all of a sudden Rich Rodriguez and his AD are putting out statements saying, oh, he's decided to stay at Arizona. Well, that's like me saying I've decided to stay with my wife instead of date Cindy Crawford. It's not really up to you.
Yeah.
And there is definitely some lingering resentment there as opposed to the way that Rodriguez tried to portray it. He did not get an offer, was not getting an offer, and he knew he wasn't getting an offer. He's been pinned down on it since. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe for the AD you throw an extra bonus score in there because I get it. Rodriguez and his AD are trying to spin it for their benefit, but it continued to create this idea of, oh, this AD, this hire is just the last guy in the bar, basically, as opposed to a choice that they made. And that wasn't true. You'd argue if it's the right choice or not all you want, but it wasn't a case where it was the last guy at the bar got the job.
We're going to try to make sure your wife doesn't hear this.
She didn't care. She do better than me anyway. She'd be like, cool, I'm upgrading.
Heath Klein with 107.5 The Game out of Columbia joining us here. Heath, we appreciate it, man.
Oh, yeah. Anytime, guys.
Well, don't say it if you don't mean it, because we will get your phone number and we will call you.
Absolutely.
Don't think we
In fact, when we go off, stick around.
Yeah. Especially before that September 30th game that they still have a little PTSD from last year.
Yeah, no doubt. So hey, this is a big year for me against South Carolina. I'm just saying.
Between the two,
it's a big deal.
Yeah.
We are going to take a break. When we come back, Mo caught up with Tonka Hemingway. We'll hear that interview as well. So stick around on Main Street Sports Today coverage from SEC Football Media Days kickoff right here on Main Street Media TV. We'll be back after this.
Welcome to the GR Group at Cry Like Realtors. Our team is comprised of seasoned veterans, military spouses, and other real estate professionals with strong ties to the military community. We specialize in helping our clients buy and sell homes, as well as providing comprehensive services for commercial and land properties. Whether you're relocating to the area, interested in buying or selling a home, or looking for commercial or land properties, the GR Group has the expertise and resources to help you achieve your real estate goals. Contact the GR Group today.
Welcome back into Main Street Sports Today's coverage of SEC Football Media Days kickoff event here at the Grand Hyatt in downtown Nashville. Chris Yao, Mo Patton, Wade Newman.
South Carolina's Tonka Hemingway joining us here on Main Street Sports Today as we continue our coverage of SEC Football Media Days. Tonka, welcome to Nashville, first of all.
Yes, sir.
Hey, how's I know it's early, but how are things going for you so far?
It's going pretty good. I feel like I'm doing way better than what I expected to do.
Your first time here?
Yes, sir. First time.
As you guys continue under Coach Beamer, what are your expectations for this team right now?
Our standards are very high. We talk about them all the time, and we limit them to ourselves. We don't really talk about them outside, so we limit ourselves, and we're trying to reach those expectations.
Built up some momentum late in the year last year, obviously the big win over Tennessee. How do you continue that in 2023?
Well, you take it one game at a time, one day at a time, go into training, workouts, and you want to work hard. And you don't want to think about the past. Yeah, we beat them, but it's a new season, new year.
Obviously, Spencer Rattler draws a lot of attention for you guys. How do you feel about this defense?
I feel real good about defense. We got a lot of young guys, but I feel like they up to the challenge.
Great. Sounds good.
Yes,
Tonka, appreciate you.
No
Thanks.
problem.
Finishing our conversation about South Carolina, thanks to Heath Klein once again of 107.5 The Game for joining us, talking a little bit about the Gamecocks as they can continue to use that at least for the next couple months. At which point they will be demoted to Chanticleers.
Like Mo and I said, this is the battle that we didn't know that we needed.
I'm wondering what South Carolina could possibly change their nickname to once they are no longer allowed to use it.
They'll be demoted to the Chanticleers.
Well, what about Coastal Carolina, though?
Like I said, demoted to the Chanticleers.
That's already taken, is my point.
So is Gamecocks.
Oh.
I don't
guess
follow
we
either,
can.
Mo.
I guess we can leave that to be between South Carolina and Coastal Carolina.
Okay,
Exactly.
yeah. Now
okay.
you're on the right track.
Yeah.
Let's talk about these Gamecocks as we did earlier. North Carolina to start the season, I think that is maybe their biggest game of the year because the rest of them are
You kind of feel like the rest of them are kind of
almost predetermined.
right. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks.
We're getting ready to go over the schedule, guys. Phil Steele, this is all you really need to know. Number 2 schedule difficulty in the nation for these Gamecocks.
The nation.
That kind of goes to your point. Florida, number 1, South Carolina, number 2.
Yeah, you got to go to Knoxville. You get
to Georgia.
Got to go to Georgia in 2 of 3 weeks, by the way. Florida, you get at home. Got to go to Como. Got to go to Texas A&M. I mean,
and you got Clemson every year at the end of the year.
At least that's at home, but still.
Yeah, they play the entire month of November at the house, so that should maybe help. Outside of that, though, this is a tough schedule.
I think by then they're going to need any help they can get, though.
Yep. Any life preservers by that point would be welcomed.
Yeah. Wow.
Well, I mean, like we just talked with Heath. He said, if you don't beat North Carolina, you've got to hope to go into Tennessee 2-2. And that's about taking one from Mississippi State. And I'm not sure that that's going to be a foregone conclusion.
I don't think it is. I mean, there are not a whole lot of foregone conclusions on this schedule, which is why that's the
at least
number 2 schedule which is why it's the number 2 schedule in the country.
I mean, I don't think they beat Georgia. I don't think they beat Tennessee. I don't think they beat Florida. Now, Missouri and Como, that could be a really interesting game. I don't think they beat Texas A&M. I don't think they beat Kentucky, and I certainly don't think they beat Clemson. I don't think this team goes to a bowl.
And I'm not sure they beat Vanderbilt.
I'm not sure they beat Vanderbilt. At least it's at home.
But Vanderbilt has had success in Columbia.
Well, and the thing about that one is that depending on where Vanderbilt is in their season, if they are, 4 wins trying to get to 5, or if they're 5 wins trying to get bowl eligible before they get to Tennessee, Vanderbilt probably gives you their best shot. So you got to be careful there. And A.J. Swan has had a full season under, at the helm, under center or behind center, wherever he plays.
Right.
I mean, South Carolina is going to have to do some really, really some digging if they don't get North Carolina off that bat. And if they don't, as we talked yesterday with Florida and Utah, not going to be great for the SEC, ACC superiority complex.
Vegas says South Carolina over under 6.5. And if you don't win,
they're right in it.
If you don't win that North Carolina game,
the under looking really good.
Under's looking tasty.
Yeah.
And
it might be almost impossible to get that bet. I mean, it'll be almost
a foregone conclusion, like you said. Now, the only thing that we haven't on this particular portion of our segment on South Carolina mentioned is if you get into one of these wild, crazy games, which they had a few of last year, you got Spencer Rattler, who appears to be playing some of the best ball of his up and down collegiate career. You got a little experience in that regard, at least. So if it turns into something, i.e. the Mississippi State game, the Missouri game on the road, who knows what Texas A&M would look like in late October. You at least you're showing up to a gunfight with it, maybe not an Uzi, but you're showing up with at least a pistol.
Yeah,
not a pencil, as opposed to some years in past.
You've got a gun. When you're talking Spencer Rattler, you've got a guy experienced and talented. And at the quarterback position in the SEC this year, that puts you in the top 3 or 4.
And as you said, Rattler kind of closed the year playing particularly well, and this team kind of closed the year playing particularly well. Beating Clemson at Clemson, obviously what they did to Tennessee. Kind of throw out that clunker at Gainesville, I guess. But before that, they beat Vanderbilt by 11 in Nashville. So they particularly did some pretty good work on the road down the stretch.
Well, maybe that bodes well for Vanderbilt, Kentucky, and Clemson since it's in Columbia, South Carolina.
Yeah.
So. And Labor Day weekend, that game, like we said a number of times, versus North Carolina. It's going to be played in Charlotte, but you got two really good quarterbacks in Rattler and May going toe-to-toe. That will be a great way to start the season, considering we don't cover South Carolina, and so we're not living and dying on every single game.
It'll be fun to watch.
As a neutral outsider observer, I think it'll be an entertaining one, but you guys are right. That one will set the tone, no doubt about it, for the rest of the year.
I don't think they make a bowl even if they win it. I think that might be like Florida last year. I mean, I know Florida made a bowl. They went 6-6 before losing to Oregon State in Vegas, but I don't see it.
Phil Steele also quick to point out, to put a bow on our point from earlier, this is the first ever Gamecocks versus Gamecocks matchup.
Well, there are only two out there. So.
South Carolina is 4-0, both straight up and against the spread in group of 5 foes under Beamer. So the odds are stacked against the Gamecocks. The Jacksonville State Gamecocks.
But the Jacksonville State Gamecocks also have a win over Ole Miss, a win over Florida State.
And the one thing we
took Auburn to overtime, nearly had a second win over Florida State not too long ago.
And when we had Heath on, we went through the whole Rich Rodriguez story. You could obviously just make the complete opposite argument and say that Rich Rod's going to have a little extra pep in his step for that show.
You didn't even offer me the job. I had to play damage control because of you.
You know what? I'm glad I didn't take the job. I'd rather be here.
And I'm glad
in Jacksonville, Alabama. Yeah, I'd rather be here.
You know what?
Yeah, it was tough for me to say that even with a straight face. You're right.
I'd rather be in Jacksonville too because we got Cooter Browns and you don't. Cooter Brown's Rib Shack.
You know, it's funny. I was just reading a story on AL.com earlier this week about Cooter Browns.
Right, that's the spot.
Yeah. Yeah,
you must have seen that on Greg Seitz' Facebook page. And
I did. That's exactly where I saw it. Yeah, and they had me at barbecue.
Hey,
so
Cooter Brown's
which
Rib Shack.
we had for lunch today.
We did have barbecue, and I had a little Alabama white sauce with mine, just to feel like
I didn't
was
even
at home.
see the Alabama white sauce.
It was more pink.
Oh, well, that explains it.
It didn't look like white sauce, but all right, that's enough to talk about the South Carolina Gamecocks. But we do look forward to that first one at least, and it'll be one of the better games that first week. I mean, outside of it's Florida, Utah, LSU, Florida State, which is on Sunday, so that helps, and then Tennessee, Virginia, and South Carolina, North Carolina. Those are the 4 best games of the first week of the season. So. Should be fun. Should be a good first week of that Labor Day weekend. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to talking to you more about what's going on here at SEC Football Media Days at MS_sports today. We need to tell you about the South Carolina Gamecocks. And, of course, our friends at JR Group.
Our coverage of the South Carolina Gamecocks here at SEC Media Days brought to you by the JR Group at Crye-Leike Realtors in Clarksville. The JR Group understands that buying or selling a home can be a stressful experience, so that's why they've dedicated providing exceptional customer service and personalized attention every step of the way. So if you're ready to take the next step in your real estate journey, we encourage you to contact us and learn more about how the JR Group can help. Call 931-980-9006 today.
Call them today. Come see us later today. Main Street Sports today, 2 o'clock, 4 o'clock, every weekday. I guess it could be earlier today, depending on when this segment airs. I mean, who knows? But we are weekdays, 2 to 4, right here on Main Street Media TV. Until then, we'll see you later. Since 1975, Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic has treated the orthopedic needs of Middle Tennessee residents. The trained physicians provide surgical options and minimally invasive options to treat all orthopedic needs. The walk-in clinic, OrthoQuick, helps you bypass the ER while treating sports injuries and acute needs Monday through Saturday. Visit MTBJ online at mtbj.net or on social media at Mid-Tennessee Bone Joint Clinic.
Tired of hanging lights every year? We get it. That's why Southern Nights is here to help. We install programmable lighting on your home or business so you can enjoy beautiful, customizable lighting all year round. No more ladders, tangled lights, or cold nights outside. We do the work, you do the celebrating. Call Southern Nights today and take the hassle out of holiday lighting forever. For a free quote, give us a call at 931-241-3074 or visit our Facebook page at Southern Nights.
If you're looking to buy or sell in Dickson County, Tennessee, call Tim Southerland at Rolling Hills Realty. As a seasoned realtor, Tim knows how to get you the best price for your home. Selling your home is one of the biggest decisions you'll make, so trust the expert. Call Tim Southerland today at 615-720-1568 or visit rollinghillsrealtydixon.com.
Complete Service Heat and Air is a trusted provider of top-notch heating and cooling solutions dedicated to ensuring optimal comfort and efficiency for residential and commercial spaces. Complete Service Heat and Air is located in White Bluff, Tennessee. We do service and repair on heating and air the right way 24/7 service. Call us at 615-797-3997. Serving Cheatham, Davidson, Dickson, Hickman, Humphreys, Montgomery, and Williamson counties.
It's time for Main Street Media Television's exclusive coverage of SEC Media Days, driven by Complete Service Heat and Air, your trusted provider of top-notch heating and cooling solutions, dedicated to ensuring optimal comfort and efficiency for residential and commercial spaces. Complete Service Heat and Air is located in White Bluff, Tennessee. We do service and repair on heating and air in the right way. 24/7 service. Call us at 615-797-3997. Serving Cheatham, Davidson, Dickson, Hickman, Humphreys, Montgomery, and Williamson counties. Now, let's go to downtown Nashville and join Maurice Patton, Chris Yao, and Wade Neely as they broadcast from the Grand Hyatt.
Welcome in to Main Street Sports Today's coverage from SEC Football Media Days here at the Grand Hyatt in downtown Nashville. Chris Yao, Mo Patton, Wade Neely here with you, and so glad to have you guys as we are getting ready to talk a little bit about the Ole Miss Rebels. They've been wandering around the halls in the main media room, in the electronic media room all morning long, and it's been a unique experience, and that's not too unexpected when Lane Kiffin's in the building. So I'm excited about this. But we do have a special guest with us, and we'll get to him in just a moment. Before we got to tell you, this is brought to you by our friends at Jeff Grimes and Associates.
Our coverage of the Ole Miss Rebels segment from SEC Media Days is brought to you by Jeff Grimes at Jeff Grimes and Associates in Clarksville. Jeff is a decorated Army veteran who has over 25 years of experience practicing criminal defense in Tennessee. Jeff has tried numerous cases before a grand jury, including homicide trials, drug manufacturing, weapons charges, theft charges, DUI, and vehicular homicide. He has conducted hundreds of motion hearings, preliminary hearings, settlement hearings, and bench trials in circuit, general sessions, and juvenile courts. A number of his cases have been covered nationally by CNN, Army Times, Navy Times, CBS, NBC, Fox News, and the Daily Mail. Call Jeff Grimes today at 931-906-0088 and protect your freedom.
Joining us here is Michael Borky from Super Talk Mississippi, right?
Yeah, Sports Talk Mississippi on Super Talk Mississippi.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
okay.
we're really creative.
The STMS is important.
So not just talk.
It's
Super Talk.
Yeah,
That's
something like that.
You've got to you've got to live up to that.
Well, I'm
no
sure to
pressure there,
disappoint here. Yeah.
and and I hate to start off on a negative note, Mo, but that particular
I know where you're going
with the recent news of the arrest of the Ole Miss defensive lineman, I believe.
Yeah. Well,
that's unfortunate.
Backup third string defensive lineman. Yeah.
Well, that's good to know. I was going to ask if that was a player that you guys were expecting to contribute.
No, not a major impact.
Okay.
And I expect a few games, and they open with Mercer and Tulane, which it's in New Orleans. That can be tricky. Tulane lost a bunch off of last year's team, though. It's like Michael Pratt, and then everybody else is gone.
Mm-hmm.
Pratt's a great player, though. But yeah, he'll miss a few games, but not somebody that they expected to make a major impact on this team, at least early.
The timing
is horrible.
Yeah. I mean, just in time for everybody in the Southeastern Conference from a media standpoint to get an opportunity to ask you about it. Yeah. Always fun.
But don't ask Lane about it. It's
like
because
last year.
And that's the thing about Kiffin. I'm glad that people here kind of understand it. When you ask him about his football team, we're looking forward to having a competition this fall, and that's it. It's like he shuts down. The football coach doesn't want to talk about football, but if you get him anything else, I mean, you heard it up on the big stage, big picture stuff. He's great. I mean, funny, engaging. Had something funny to say about when he was asked about Tennessee's investigation in the breakout room over here. A guy said, I get confused for you all the time. And his response was, well, I need to figure out who your mom is.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where he's great. When you ask him about actual football, you don't know. And it's by, I mean, he doesn't want to give you anything.
Sure.
But
he learned from the best.
He did. But I'm glad the people here kind of understood that because we actually got a really good day out of Kiffin. If it was just, tell me about Spencer Sanders, tell me about this, tell me about, you won't get anything good.
You're right. I mean, he does have that, kind of.
Oh, it's like his voice comes down like 5 octaves. It's just
it's brutal for folks who are trying to control the volume on the microphone.
Oh yeah,
they're like, oh crap, we gotta get him up. No, it's rough, but he did have some good things to say. What were your takeaways?
It doesn't surprise me at this point. It's interesting. He's very pro paying players. Like he's always been that way. But yeah, I mean, because you'll have guys that kind of bemoan the idea though of we paid players and that's a problem. But no, he likes it, he supports it. But he's right when there's such a disconnect. I don't know if that's even the right word, but I hear people all the time. Our listeners say all the time, college football is becoming the NFL, and I don't like it. And my response is no. You want it to be more like the NFL. It has gone so far beyond the NFL. The money's greater, obviously, in the NFL, but there's contracts that you have to abide by. You can't just hop into free agency every 6 months like you can in college football. There's salary caps. There's strictly enforced rules. There's free agency windows, that all that. And Kiffin really touched on that a lot today. And people need to understand that. When you compare it to the NFL, you're so wrong. It is so much worse. It's so unregulated. It is so all over the place. I think it's good that players can get money. I think it's fine. I think the transfer portal to some degree is fine. But Ole Miss signed a guy in December, and he was in the transfer portal in April. And so what are we doing at this point?
Yeah, there's that. But to your point and to Lane's point, I don't understand what the issue is on the outside with players getting paid. Why do you care if players are getting paid or not?
Yeah, I don't understand that myself because we have our listeners will say things like, oh, you need to take their scholarships away then or whatever. And 5 years ago, when a guy caught a pass over the middle for a touchdown, did you really say or think in your mind, you know what's great about that? He's not getting any money. I mean,
this is fantastic. I'm so glad to know that he's not getting anything out of this.
Or when a guy catches a pass over the middle and gets his head taken off. And he's not getting any money.
And what I say to people all the time is there's chaos. Roster movement's a problem. There's a lot of stuff going on in college football. But last year, it was year 2 of NIL. What about the actual football changed in any way? Did anything change? When the games happened, Did anything change? The lone trumpeter still played at Georgia. You know, that still happened. Tennessee still ran through the T. They played Sweet Home Alabama too much in Tuscaloosa. Like, it's the exact same. Nothing has changed.
One time is too much for that.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that the biggest issue is the unregulation of NIL plus the transfer portal, because you're luring players away potentially with money and all of the things that go along with that. Rich get richer, poor get poor, et cetera, et
I
cetera.
mean, it's certainly valid. I get that.
Oh, by the way, Tulane won a New Year's Six Bowl.
See, TCU beat Michigan and played in the national championship game.
So anyway, I'm just saying.
Yeah, it's anxiety-inducing for fans. I mean, Quinshon Judkins is walking around here. He was an under-recruited guy out of Alabama. Lane Kiffin identified him early and fought like hell to get Quinshon Judkins to go to Ole Miss and doesn't break the record, but he led the SEC in rushing, and everybody tried to get him to hit the portal and transfer. Well, he never hit the portal. Why are they behind the scenes? Everybody tried to get him.
Sure.
And he was getting offered money and all kinds of stuff behind the scenes. And so for an Ole Miss fan that doesn't recruit the same way that Alabama does, but they've got an Alabama running back who wasn't a 5-star, but sure as heck played like a 5-star. And now this offseason, they had to worry, is he going to stay? Is the collective, do they have enough money to pay him to get him to stay? That answer was yes, but guess what they got to do next year now?
Do it again.
They have to do it again. So the Ravens fan, for example, using the NFL analogy again, had to stress over Lamar Jackson. Is he going to sign? Is he going to sign? Once he did, it's over. You don't have to worry about Lamar Jackson anymore. He's your quarterback forever. Ole Miss fans at the end of the Egg Bowl, November, will have to spend months wondering, is my favorite player leaving? And that is one downside that needs to be addressed, is that part. The football hasn't changed. I like some elements of it, but that is a problem.
NIL needs tweaking. Transfer portal needs tweaking. Neither of them needs to go away.
There you go. Yeah. Let's talk about Quinshon Judkins, because you just mentioned it. He is along with Jackson Dart. You got a 1-2 punch in that backfield that can really make some waves this year. I mean, this is a team that started off hot, obviously finished with a fizzle, but they've got an opportunity to really make some noise in a wide open SEC West.
It does feel like the West is and wide open is a term that in the offseason we use a lot, but this year does kind of feel like it's a little bit more gettable, or at least more balanced than it has been. But yeah, the combination of Dart and Judkins is pretty special. And now Jackson Dart was good last year, not great. He had flaws, but the Ole Miss fans are a little bit spoiled, going from Matt Corral to Jackson Dart. And that was year 3 of Matt Corral. That was year 1 of Jackson Dart. And you've got to remember with him, he was at USC, played injured at USC. Coach got fired. It was a weird deal. He doesn't want to leave. Like, he did not want to leave USC, but they hired Lincoln Riley, and guess who Lincoln brought with him? So it was either I'm going to back up the best quarterback in college football, or I need to hit the portal. So he did that late. He joined Ole Miss's team in February and had to battle Luke Altmaier for the job through spring, summer, and training camp. So he was 19, joined the team in February, and had to split reps the whole time leading up to the season. And Ole Miss fans like, oh, not good enough, not good enough. And I keep trying to say, 19-year-old quarterbacks aren't finished products. Can you name 5 SEC quarterbacks that at 19 were as good as they could possibly be and lit the world on fire? No. So
2 best quarterbacks in the league last year, outside of the 3 best quarterbacks in the league, were all fifth-year senior is an old.
And Dart needs that
Every
great.
one of them.
And if he hasn't turned 20 yet, he's about to. So he's still only 19 or 20 years old, still a young quarterback. Offensive line issues were masked by scheme in the running game and how good the backs were, and Dart himself. So he's really good at evading pressure in the pocket, and that masked a lot of protection issues up front on the offensive line as well because of how good he was at that. So, yes, he has room for improvement, but for a 19-year-old in year 1 like that, played admirably, and he's a threat running the football as well. Underrated in that aspect because they didn't ask him to do it as much as they did Corral, but he can do that as well. It's a dynamic backfield.
And those type quarterbacks seem to thrive under Lane.
Yeah.
As we speak with Michael Borky of Sports Talk Mississippi here on Main Street Sports today as we continue our coverage of SEC Football Media Days. what's fascinating to me, Michael, is you've got a Jackson Dart coming back, and somehow you also managed to have Spencer Sanders transfer in from Oklahoma State, and you also managed to have Walker Howard transfer in from LSU. I mean, is that just the Kiffin factor that quarterbacks want to play for him and they'll take their chances on whether they can get on the field or not? Or
they do. So the Sanders situation is a little bit unique because he didn't have the options that you would think a guy with his experience would have had. There was some academic stuff that prevented him from having a plethora of options. And so the recruitment of him really wasn't all that difficult for Lane Kiffin because it got weird at Oklahoma State for him. They essentially weren't welcoming him back, and there were only a handful.
You ain't got to go home.
Yeah. Which is an odd decision on Mike Gundy's part, by the way, considering how good he is and how capable he is, but didn't really have the options that you would think that he would have had being a four-year starter and a highly accomplished four-year starter at that. Coming off of a shoulder injury, that impacted him in spring. Couldn't compete the way that he would have hoped, I assume, to try to win the job from Dart. Just still battling that shoulder injury. But things can change because they do, but it's Jackson's team. It is. And Walker Howard transferred to Ole Miss knowing that Jackson Dart was there. It's Jackson's team, and he anticipates being the guy in 2024. The issue was at LSU, there were two guys in front of him. So he transferred to Ole Miss because he knew that he was going to be the guy in 2024, whereas LSU, that was not a guarantee. That both of those recruitments were actually pretty simple.
We've talked a lot about the playmaking ability of the Rebels this year, and anytime you got a Lane Kiffin-led squad, it seems like playmaking is almost somewhat of a little bit of a foregone conclusion. But who are what are a couple other units that either need to improve or that you're most looking forward to seeing improvement?
It's all defense for Ole Miss. They bring in Pete Golding from Alabama, and regardless of what you think about Pete Golding and what he did at Alabama, it's a little bit unfair with how heavily scrutinized he was when in the S&P Plus they were top 10 in defense every year when he was at Alabama for those 5 years. So it's just he wasn't Kirby Smart, and because he's not Kirby Smart, he's terrible. Definitely an upgrade from Chris Partridge, his predecessor, but they overhauled basically the entire defense. So Cedric Johnson, who's walking around, he's back. He's been there for a while, but on the defensive line, it's Cedric Johnson, transfer, linebacker, one guy that they recruited, transfer freshman. I mean, and so that's the thing with Ole Miss. And what's good about the guys that they signed in the portal, Stephon Wynn, for example, on the defensive line, has played 6 college football seasons. He's recorded stats in 6 college football seasons. They're veteran guys. Isaac Ukwu from James Madison is a veteran guy. Monty Montgomery from Louisville played a ton of football. So a lot of new faces, roster overhaul, but at least they're veterans. And that, if you're looking for positive spin, that would be it. Having to depend on the portal so much because you were so lacking personnel-wise on defense, not a good thing. But they did well on paper.
Alabama fans will tell you Pete Golding is not the answer.
Oh, he's a better answer than what they had a year ago, at least. There is an upgrade there. But
it's relative.
It's a lot of veterans. It's just new faces, but a ton of football under their belt, just at other places.
Michael Borky here with us from Sports Talk on Super Talk Mississippi. Michael, thanks for taking time with us, man. We learned a lot about Ole Miss and looking forward to more. We'll take a quick break. This message from Jeff Grimes. When we come back, we'll break down the schedule.
When it comes to your freedom, don't take chances. Jeff Grimes is one of the best criminal defense attorneys in Tennessee. With over 25 years of experience, Jeff has successfully defended countless cases, from homicide to DUI. As a decorated Army veteran, he's professional, prepared, and ready to fight for you. Highly recommended by his clients, he's the lawyer you want on your side. Call Jeff Grimes and Associates today to schedule a free initial consultation.
Welcome back again to SEC Football Media Days kickoff event here at the Grand Hyatt. This is Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. The coverage here is brought to you by our friends at Complete Service Heat and Air. Of course, talking Ole Miss, thanks to Michael Borky from Sports Talk Mississippi on Super Talk Mississippi, and he was super.
He was.
That was great information.
Yeah, that was a lot of info in a short period of time. Really enjoyed that.
And he mentioned it, game 2 at Tulane, coming off of their Goodyear Cotton Bowl Classic win.
Nicely done. Scotty Rogers
happy.
will appreciate that. Yes.
Tip of the cap.
Yeah, you got to give him the credit there. But Mercer, Tulane, Georgia Tech. Tulane did lose a lot. Feels like Ole Miss should start off hot just like they did last year.
I think, you're going to find a Tulane team that's got a lot of confidence coming off of that postseason victory. But as Michael said, they lost a lot. So, yeah, you would think.
Does Vegas agree with us?
Vegas does not, at least on the certain book we've been using all week. They don't even have a line out for that game yet.
They want to see what happens with Mercer.
Maybe we see what happens with Mercer. Maybe, get through camp and see what happens with Tulane as well, because like you guys have both mentioned, they were a great team last year, but they lost a lot, and it's not as if you're losing a lot in your Alabama or Georgia and you're reloading with 5 stars on top of 5 stars. When you lose a lot at a program like Tulane, that could be crucial.
And they just absolutely destroyed Georgia Tech in Atlanta last year. They get them in Oxford this year. So you feel like those 3 games are certainly winnable for Ole Miss before they go to Tuscaloosa.
Not so fast, said Spring Hill native Dante Smith.
Okay.
Put some respect on his name. A modicum of respect.
I don't think Dante may have a fantastic game. I don't think that Georgia Tech has near the talent level enough to beat Ole Miss.
You're probably right.
I mean, I just based on what we saw last year and the fact that Ole Miss, second year of Jackson Dart, Quinn Judkins is just insane. This defense is going to be better. How much better remains to be seen, but they're going to be better.
And this is a team in Ole Miss you talked about. They fizzled down the stretch. They were 8-1 at one point.
They were.
Lost their last 4.
I think they were 7-0 at one point.
I think you're probably right.
I mean, they were undefeated at one point.
Lost 5 of 6, blew double-digit leads to a couple of teams down the stretch too.
Struggled.
And does that not kind of feel like how Ole Miss has gone the last couple of seasons?
After they play Alabama, it just goes downhill from there.
They either start slow and then finish on an absolute heater, or they get off to a fantastic start and then they kind of fizzle, like you guys have said. It seems like there's no real consistency or balance just yet. But in the 4th season of Lane Kiffin, at least being in that media room with him today, he seems a little more comfortable, a little more at ease than I've noticed out of his body language the last couple of seasons. Almost like he knows what he's got really heading into this year, which is crazy to think about considering how many transfers we just have discussed they've got coming in.
In a 4-week, 3-game stretch, they lost to LSU. That was their first loss of the season, 45-20 in Baton Rouge. No shame in that.
No.
After beating Texas A&M in College Station 31-28, they turned around and lost to Alabama in Oxford 30-24. And
which was a pretty good game.
But you can see how those 2 losses to LSU and Alabama could kind of break you.
And those were 2 of the 3. They led Mississippi State by 9, but so basically call it 10. But LSU, Alabama, and Mississippi State had double-digit leads. And what did Michael just tell us? Said the defense has got to improve. It's one thing if you're putting up 30 points a game, but if you're giving up 30 points a game, it's going to be awfully tough to win a lot of ball games.
But
in
that
this
puts a lot of pressure on their offense.
Well, and this schedule does not play well for Ole Miss. After those first 3, you've got Alabama on the road. You get LSU at home, and then
it's still LSU.
And you get Arkansas at home. It's still Arkansas. I mean, those are the 3 games. Those are 3 of the 4 games you lost down the stretch.
You're probably sitting 3-3 coming out of the first half.
I mean, if you steal one of those 3, you feel really good about the rest of your season. Because Auburn off of an off week, Vanderbilt's at Oxford, A&M's got to come to you. You beat them last year in College Station. You got to go to Georgia.
And hold up. Let's talk about that Ole Miss A&M game for just a second. I mean, maybe it's something, maybe it's nothing. Probably it's nothing, but Texas A&M freshman quarterback Marcel Reed from MBA was an Ole Miss commit at one time. So if there's any extra juice to be squeezed out of that situation, I would think
based off what we talked with David Nuno,
it may not necessarily be
he
this
may not
year.
even make the trip.
Yeah,
as a red shirt. But sure,
but you can slap somebody on the rear end and say, "Hey, go get it done for me this weekend."
Perhaps. And after A&M, you got to go to Georgia. Then you get the patented SEC cupcake before your rivalry. As you get, is it Terry Bowden led Monroe?
Is he still there?
I think he is. And then you get, of course, the Egg Bowl, which is in Starkville on that Friday. Who's Louisiana?
That's Terry Bowden, my friend.
All right.
There we go.
I thought so.
Good recall there. We knew you couldn't forget old Terry.
No, I cannot.
The Warhawks down in Monroe.
Now, and kind of getting back to the big picture thing for Ole Miss, to me, this is a team, and Vegas says 7.5 to 8 wins. But to me, now granted, it's obviously an extreme roll of the dice, maybe more than any other team with a lot of their transfers. But if you hit on almost all of those transfers, the experience is there. Like Michael just told us, they may not be your high school recruits that you have been watching for the last 2 or 3 seasons. But if you can hit on most of those transfers, this is suddenly a very talented squad that's got a lot of experience behind it. And it's the SEC West is there for the taking. We've kind of said it all week.
7.5 is the total. Even if they lose those 3 and lose to Georgia, you're still at 8. That's a pretty solid bet. I mean, if you're looking at it.
I think you got to think about it, though.
I mean, sure, they can't slip up anywhere else.
Mm-hmm. And I think there's some opportunities for slip-ups.
I think so, too. But, I mean, this is a team that won 8 games last year. I think they're more talented. I think they're probably better defensively than they were last year. I think this is a team that probably wins 8. I think 9 is more likely. I think they steal one of those in the middle.
Out of Alabama, LSU, Arkansas, they steal one?
I think so.
Okay.
You get LSU and Arkansas at home. One of those two are bound to go your way.
It's more likely to be Arkansas, man.
I would think so, but maybe not. I mean, you don't know what it's still Ole Miss. Ole Miss has still got that. They always find a way to steal one.
And Ole Miss had lost 2 home games last year. We've kind of discussed when going back through their schedule last year, but prior to that, they had won 14 in a row in the Grove. So I'm kind of with you guys. LSU or Arkansas is definitely for the taking. It does stink you get them back-to-back weeks. If you lose to LSU, you got to maybe worry about a little bit of a hangover there. It also obviously stinks you got to play 2 of the best quarterbacks in the league back-to-back weeks.
Yeah, both of the guys that I voted.
When your
quarterbacks.
defense is your concern.
Yeah, when defense is your problem. So but can you outscore them? That's the question. Arkansas had the worst defense in the country last year. Remember, we talked to Ty Richardson about that earlier this week.
We did.
So it may be arena football in Oxford, but
45-40 written all over it.
It absolutely has 45-40 written all over it. So I'm looking forward to this Ole Miss season. I think it's going to be interesting to watch from afar.
Ole Miss, to me, is a team that I'm not going in with a lot of expectations, but if we get later in the season and they are suddenly lurking in the mix with a pretty good record, I'm not going to be utterly shocked at this point.
Wade, are there still Ole Miss fans in Pulaski?
You know, funny you mentioned that. Yeah, there's still some Ole Miss squad floating in and around, and we've the Wallace family still active in Giles County, and Bo is now over at University School of Jackson as their offensive coordinator. And if you don't get on Bo Wallace's Twitter very often, it's worth a follow because he is about as tapped in to both Ole Miss and with Hugh Freeze and now at Auburn. And he really, what lets it fly on Twitter. So he's a fun follow. He's fun to see, but he loves his Rebels. And yes, there are definitely still pretty heavy pockets of Ole Miss supporters there down in Giles County.
There you go. Once again, our coverage is brought to you, Mo, by Jeff Grimes and Associates.
Our coverage of the Ole Miss Rebels segment from SEC Media Days is brought to you by Jeff Grimes at Jeff Grimes and Associates in Clarksville. Jeff is a decorated Army veteran who has over 25 years of experience practicing criminal defense in Tennessee. Jeff has tried numerous cases before a grand jury, including homicide trials, drug manufacturing, weapons charges, theft charges, DUI, and vehicular homicide. He has conducted hundreds of motion hearings, preliminary hearings, settlement hearings, and bench trials in circuit, general sessions, and juvenile courts. A number of his cases have been covered nationally by CNN, Army Times, Navy Times, CBS, NBC, Fox News, and the Daily Mail. Call Jeff Grimes today at 931-906-0088 and protect your freedom.
That's going to do it for our Ole Miss segment. Again, 2 o'clock, 4 o'clock, each and every weekday, Main Street Sports Today. More from SEC Football Media Days kickoff at MS_Sports Today on Twitter. Make sure to give us a follow. And until then, see you next time.
Since 1975, Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic has treated the orthopedic needs of Middle Tennessee residents. The trained physicians provide surgical options and minimally invasive options to treat all orthopedic needs. The walk-in clinic, OrthoQuick, helps you bypass the ER while treating sports injuries and acute needs Monday through Saturday. Visit MTBJ online at mtbj.net or on social media at Mid-Tennessee Bone Joint Clinic. Complete Service Heat and Air is a trusted provider of top-notch heating and cooling solutions dedicated to ensuring optimal comfort and efficiency for residential and commercial spaces. Complete Service Heat and Air is located in White Bluff, Tennessee. We do service and repair on heating and air the right way 24/7 service. Call us at 615-797-3997. Serving Cheatham, Davidson, Dixon, Hickman, Humphreys, Montgomery, and Williamson counties.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
Did you know that up to 80% of us will experience back or neck pain during our lifetime? Many of you are offered surgery or addictive pain pills to relieve your chronic pain. At the Dr. Gill's Center for Back, Neck, Chronic Pain Relief, we have been leading the way to better health, naturally, and have helped tens of thousands of people right here in Middle Tennessee for the past 30 years.
I came to Dr. Gill about 10 years ago after my local doctors recommended surgery. I knew about Dr. Gill and wanted to see if he could help me. 10 years later, I am pain-free, no surgery, and no pain pills.
Surgery is scary, and over 40% of all back surgeries fail, creating a cycle of surgery and pills. There is a safer solution to your chronic pain. Make the call to the Dr. Gill Center for Back, Neck, Chronic Pain Relief today and get your life back. This office visit is normally $299, but call today and receive your initial consultation, report of finding for just $49. But hurry, this offer won't last long. Call 615-768-8743. That's 615-768-8743.
You can't see the sights without the sounds. From the crack of the bat to the roar of the crowd and everything in between, discover what Hit City has to offer. Spend your nights cheering on the Nashville Sounds at First Horizon Park with giveaways, fireworks shows, theme weekends, and more. Single game tickets are on sale now. Visit NashvilleSounds.com to claim your seat today.
Mid-Tennessee Bone & Joint has been the official sports medicine provider for Maury County Schools for more than 40 years. We specialize in orthopedic service, and our OrthoQuick walk-in clinic lets you bypass the ER. Visit us online at www.mtbj.net.
time for Main Street Media Television's exclusive coverage of SEC Media Days, driven by Complete Service Heat and Air, your trusted provider of top-notch heating and cooling solutions, dedicated to ensuring optimal comfort and efficiency for residential and commercial spaces. Complete Service Heat and Air is located in White Bluff, Tennessee. We do service and repair on heating and air in the right way. 24/7 service. Call us at 615-797-3997. Serving Cheatham, Davidson, Dixon, Hickman, Humphreys, Montgomery, and Williamson counties. Now, let's go to downtown Nashville and join Maurice Patton, Chris Yao, and Wade Neely as they broadcast from the Grand Hyatt.
Welcome back in Main Street Sports. Today's presented coverage of SEC Football Media Days by Complete Service Heat and Air. It's time now to talk about the Alabama Crimson Tide. And to do that, we have to tell you about our friend, Larry Maynard. As an All-State agent in Gallatin, Larry Maynard knows many local families. His knowledge and understanding of the people in the community helps him provide customers with an outstanding level of service. Call 615-452-1500 to reach the Larry Maynard Agency right there on North Locust Avenue in Gallatin for your insurance needs. Well, folks, it's Alabama, and yesterday was a bit of a circus trying to get the Crimson Tide in and out of here without too much rigmarole.
I was surprised the building was still standing after the Tide came rolling through here yesterday with all the chaos, like you said, that came through here.
No question, no question. Well, Nick Saban spoke in the electronic media room to television and radio reporters yesterday and spoke a little bit about the quarterback situation that his team has. Spoke condescendingly, as he is prone to do, about question marks that his teams may or may not have had over the past few years and what he may have this year. So let's send it to Justin and hear what Nick Saban had to say yesterday.
Well, we're never a shoe-in for the championship. We always have question marks about our team. Sometimes you all don't recognize them as clearly as what they might be, just like last year's team. Yeah, we had a great quarterback coming back. We had a great player in Will Anderson on defense. We had a lot of question marks on our team, but that gets overlooked because you have these two star players at critical positions. And, you know, this year, maybe we don't have those kind of impactful players at those critical positions. So it's very challenging to develop the team so that they can compete at a high level. We have some experience coming back on both sides of the ball, and we also have a lot of new young players who can contribute in a very positive way to our team. So, but every year is challenging. Every year is. And no matter what's happened in some other year, at some other time, in some other circumstance, it's not going to impact this year. The people on this team, the coaches on our staff, are going to do what they can to try to impact this year in a positive way in terms of what we want to accomplish and what we want to do. Is, you know, we need for all of our quarterbacks to develop on our team. I don't think anybody has separated themselves to this point, even though I see improvement in each and every guy in terms of how well they're doing and how they're developing. But we need that on our team. We don't just need a starter. We need a backup. We need, you know, good players at that position. Just like Jalen Milroe had the opportunity to play last year, we needed him to be ready in the Arkansas game and the A&M game. So when somebody separates themselves and nobody knows for sure when that is, and I can't establish a timetable to say on this date we're going to say this is the starting quarterback. It's going to happen when it happens, and that's the way it'll be. Well, I think that that's the way it's going to be. When you have a lot of good players and you do a good job of developing those players, as they have at Georgia, we have done that some in the past. You lose 4 or 5 guys that are underclassmen, in some cases more, some cases maybe less. Instead of having 17 starters back, you got 12. So it impacts your team and makes your team younger. So the challenge is how can we develop the young players on our team quickly enough that they're ready to go out and create value for themselves and play winning football? That's the challenge. So, and that's what we've had to do in many years. Some years we've done it better than others. And that's going to be the challenge for us this year. First of all, I still feel like I'm 39. And Tommy's great. He's mature. He does a great job presenting to the players. He has good relationships with the players. He's very bright. He understands the game. He's a very good quarterback coach in terms of helping guys improve at that position, which I think is critical. We don't have any issues. He's very respectful of what we want to do and how we want to do it. And the guy's hungry, wants to learn. I think he's one of the brightest young coaches that I've been around for a long time. Coach Steele's a very experienced coach. He's been a very successful offensive coordinator in our league for a number of years. He's been with us in the past on several occasions, so he kind of understands, our system of how we do things and what we do. But so it was a combination of his knowledge and experience as well as his familiarity with, how we do things that made it I think, a good choice for us. They're all good players. They're all good guys. They've all been good leaders. They've represented the program well. They're very experienced players. They've had a lot of success at their position. And I think they all have played a significant amount of football, probably as much as anybody on our team has played. So, and I think they'll both do a great job of representing the university and their teammates, here at this. So no really formula for who you bring, but hopefully those guys are someone that you'll be interested in, and they've certainly been great ambassadors for the University of Alabama. They've played really well. They're all three on track to graduate, so they've done everything we've asked them to do in a positive way.
That was Nick Saban in electronic media yesterday talking about his upcoming season. And, I think one thing that we all get, we've all been a little spoiled over the years just expecting Alabama to be Alabama. And last year, when Tennessee beat Alabama and then LSU beat Alabama, it really felt like maybe there was something there. There was a little drop off. But what does that mean in the next year? Well, it typically means that Nick Saban's going to use that for motivation. And like Lane Kiffin said earlier today, Paul Feinbaum, no shortage of ammunition in the motivating factor for Nick Saban, saying that the dynasty is over and that all of those things are no longer going to happen in Tuscaloosa. And if he doesn't make the college football playoff, then the legacy is tarnished and this, that, and the other. It's not a great time to be an Alabama opponent, I wouldn't think. And Middle Tennessee State has to be on edge because they are the September 2nd opponent in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, and any chance that Middle Tennessee State may have had of sneaking up on Alabama probably went by the boards last year when they went to Miami and beat the Hurricanes. I mean,
No doubt.
Saban's going to just hammer that point home with his guys, along with all the other points that he's hammering home over the preseason. Yeah, that may not be pretty for my Blue Raiders that weekend.
Be tough. I was at the 2005 edition when the Blue Raiders went down and actually gave Alabama a pretty good little game.
Took that game into the fourth quarter.
26-7. Now, obviously,
It
Alabama
didn't get away till late.
Didn't get away till late, and obviously things have been a little bit different, including a 37-10 loss in 2015 for MTSU. But Vegas says Alabama by 38 in that opening game. And the big, interesting question, if nothing else, I think a lot of people are going to tune into that first Alabama game to see how they look without the services of Bryce Young at quarterback. Because that, for the first time in a while, is going to be the big question mark about the Crimson Tide.
Well, it'll be, from the Jalen Hurts Tua Tagovailoa situation, when Saban said, "Look, you guys keep asking, my answer's not changing. I'm not naming the starter."
Mm-hmm.
How long will it be before we know whether it's Jalen Milroe or Ty Simpson?
We may not know until somebody steps out on the field with the first team offense against MTSU.
That's kind of how it was. Was it Blake Sims and maybe Jake Coker in that USC game where nobody knew who was going to be the starter until they got there? So, I mean, it's not like this is unprecedented for Nick.
So you're giving Alabama the win versus MTSU, you're telling me week 1.
Sorry, guys.
However,
as much as I would love for that not to be the case, I just can't imagine.
And we've talked a lot about schedule strength, particularly with South Carolina and Florida. Alabama, for what it's worth, does have the 8th toughest schedule according to Phil Steele this year, because guess who comes calling week 2? Granted, it's at home, but Texas, after a barn burner of a game last year, that is about as tough of a non-conference game as you can realistically expect to have. But again, luckily for the Crimson Tide, that game is in Tuscaloosa this year.
I think that's a big deal.
Yeah. Anytime Alabama can play at home, it's a big deal, I think, which kind of makes that Texas A&M game a little bigger to me.
Guys, this can't be right.
What's that?
This schedule can't be right.
Okay.
Alabama's not playing at South Florida.
That is correct, my friend. Week 3. Bulls.
The University of Alabama is going on the road to take on South Florida.
Tampa, baby.
Is this one of those like the softball team plays in the hometown of one of the seniors?
Well, see, here's the deal, though. I don't think South Florida plays its home. South Florida doesn't play its home games at Raymond James, do they?
No.
I guarantee you this game is at Raymond James Stadium.
They do play their games at Raymond James Stadium.
They do?
So,
do they?
There we go.
Good guarantee.
That is, he's in the guarantee business, folks.
Wow. That's interesting. For sure.
I am flabbergasted.
Hey, kudos to the South Florida AD.
Yeah, they scheduled that game in 2006, right? We're going to play you home and home. We'll get you back on the back end in 2023. Is that cool?
Yeah.
That game was scheduled.
National title.
That game was scheduled when Bama was down here and USF was maybe riding their all-time high.
Back when what was the coach who was
Jim Leavitt?
Yeah, when Leavitt was there and he had them rolling.
Yeah.
Golly, that is insane. Still think they're going to get the win on the road. What do you guys think?
You know what?
This is one of those chickens coming home to roost kind of things. Okay,
There's no Vegas line on that game, but yeah, I feel pretty confident in saying Alabama goes on the road and gets
Does
the
South
win.
Florida get the 3-point home field advantage from Vegas on that one?
Sure they do. Does it matter? No, it doesn't.
Absolutely not.
Whatever the line is on that game, give me Alabama.
Wow.
I don't care.
And then that's when they get Ole Miss in week 4. We talked about it earlier when we did the Ole Miss segment with Michael Borky of Sports Talk Mississippi, and we heard from Lane Kiffin about his relationship with Nick Saban and what that means. I just feel like, Nick has now lost twice to former assistants, which had not happened until, 2 years ago, I guess, maybe last year? 2 years ago, because that's when Zach Calzada got the win in Texas A&M. Lane Kiffin just doesn't have the talent, the horsepower to take on this Crimson Tide team, right?
You don't think?
So,
especially with Bama with a little extra juice, as we said, thanks to the defensive coordinator for Ole Miss connection there. So,
yeah, beat Golding. You don't think the Alabama knows how to attack now? Again, Tommy Rees, brand new coordinator, coming from Notre Dame, 30-something years old. It's not just 30. I don't know. He's young.
Mm-hmm.
So and then Mississippi State, you feel like that's a win. What's the first time on this schedule that this team is tested? Is it Tennessee?
For me, it's going to be just the unknown factor of Texas A&M, and if it's not Texas A&M, then yes, it is Tennessee.
Well, they've certainly failed to deliver in College Station several times under Nick Saban's tutelage. So,
is it not Texas?
I mean,
in terms of overall, yes. I think Texas, but it's been so interesting because we're looking at them under the lens of already of an SEC team, thanks to the surroundings we've been in this week. But yeah, you kind of think of it as a conference game almost. But that is going to be, we've talked about so many good non-conference games this year. I mean, that's got to be your number one outside of your traditional rivalry non-conference games. They're saying that Sarkisian in Texas, we just had Anwar on the show 2 days ago. He said, if not now, then when for Texas? So that's got to be the first big test for Alabama.
Okay.
After the MTSU game, where they may not get a lot of answer to the questions they're looking for because, with all due respect to the Blue Raiders.
Yeah, I think, unfortunately for Blue Raider faithful, I think you're going to see both Milroe and Simpson a lot in that ball game, just to see them, against somebody they don't know, somebody who isn't cooperating on the defensive side of the ball, that kind of thing, just to kind of get them some live work. And, I would kind of expect quarterback to be bracketed at the top of the depth chart going into that game, and whoever starts, the other one's going to play as well. But, I think Texas is the first big test, not not A&M, not Tennessee. I thought, because again, for everything that Anwar said, this is a pivotal year for Texas as they leave the Big 12 and get ready to come into the SEC. I mean, this is kind of an opportunity for them to announce their presence with authority, as they say.
So if they get by Texas, say they do, you've got Texas A&M, Arkansas at home, Tennessee at home, off week, LSU at home. They get they get a really solid slate of home games for, obviously having to go on the road last year and dropping those two. Feel like they want to certainly take control against Tennessee and LSU, but it won't be easy to do.
No.
And part of that will be because of these fellas sitting and standing and walking around right here, wearing Tennessee orange. I feel like this is and then of course at Auburn, where strange things have been known to happen.
I'm not sure Auburn can make anything strange happen against Alabama this time around.
Listen, man, I don't discount. I mean, 2 years ago, if not for Bryce Young's fourth quarter heroics, Auburn beats this team in Brian Harson's first year.
Which is crazy to think about.
I'm just telling you, strange things happen down on the plains.
All right. Duly noted.
Now, I don't know where Auburn is at that point in the season and what they're, but you can rest assured it really doesn't matter. They're going to be playing for blood against the Crimson Tide.
Here are the numbers on Alabama.
Let's go.
And they're one of the first teams outside of Georgia that we're really kind of diving into this. Alabama, in terms of winning the national championship, 6-1.
Okay.
Alabama in terms of winning the SEC 3-1. Alabama to win the SEC West, however, now they tip into a favorite. They're a small favorite. LSU, as we mentioned on a couple other pieces of this show throughout the week, LSU is a small underdog, and then Texas A&M a smaller underdog behind them before it really kind of falls off within Ole Miss, Auburn, Arkansas, Mississippi State. So Alabama is the presumed favorite, and we'll get the official poll from the media members a little bit later today. They're going to be the presumed favorite, but you're right, guys. There are question marks, and to me, it just doesn't feel like Alabama's just going to cakewalk through this thing and come out as unscathed as maybe some folks in Crimson would have potentially expected or assumed otherwise.
I think most fans know that there's questions, and I'm really curious to see how this one plays out. I mean, super curious, because Tennessee and LSU are in Tuscaloosa, and that I think is the biggest, and Texas. All three of those games in Tuscaloosa, I think that's the biggest thing that you have to look at when you look at the finality of this season for Alabama. I feel like that's going to play a massive part.
Absolutely.
Let's tell you about Larry Maynard one more time. As an Allstate agent in Gallatin, Larry Maynard knows many local families. His knowledge and understanding of the people in his community helps him provide customers with an outstanding level of service. Call 615-452-1500 today. We'll take a break. When we come back, the Braves won, so I guess they're not going to be sellers at the deadline. I don't know.
At least for today.
At least for today. On Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone & Joint.